In the early morning hours of October 19th, 2014, a woman went missing from here in Talladega, Alabama after a long night of partying. It was a race weekend here in Talladega. Everyone was partying, and the last person to see her that night, her husband, he says that she forced him to pull over on the side of the road and she fled from their vehicle during an argument. For a whole month after this, no one saw or heard from 42-year-old Theresa Benn until her body was found floating in a nearby popular creek. Today, I'm here in Talladega, Alabama, and I'm going to show you the locations where all of this happened, and I'll tell you what we know about what happened that night. This is the murder of Theresa Benn. On October the 19th of 2014, NASCAR was in town here at Talladega, Alabama. The Talladega 500 is a huge event in racing. In 2014, it was the Geico 500, and people came from all over the country to participate in a full week-long stretch of festivities, from smaller races to giant parties out here in the campground area. They had meet and greets with race car drivers, and there were vendors set up everywhere. Talladega and the surrounding communities were booming with an influx of people and an influx of cash, which was estimated to be around $1.5 million. And this happens twice per year. NASCAR races here at Talladega usually happen in April and then again in October. In fact, it was just race weekend here a couple of weeks ago, and it was crazy. You couldn't find a hotel for at least 100 miles from Talladega. They were all booked up, and if someone did have a room available, that price was about $400 per night. All of the restaurants were packed around here, so you had to wait a long time to get a table. The bars were packed with lines of people outside waiting to get in. It was just wild. Part of Talladega Race Week is that it's just as much for the locals as it is anyone else. And if you're in Talladega for a race and you partake in the festivities, the chances are is that you're gonna run into just as many people who live in this area as you would people who have come from out of town. On Friday, October the 17th and Saturday, October the 18th, two locals from here in Talladega that you probably would have ran into at the bars. They were a couple from this area named Kevin Dulaney and Theresa Benn. The evening of October the 18th, 2014, Kevin and Teresa were here at D Ford's having some drinks and having fun. And as the night turned into morning, the couple decided that they were going to leave, and they got into Kevin's pickup truck and they got on the road, headed back towards their home. As they drove back home, they started arguing. Kevin was ready to call it a night and go home, but Teresa wasn't done yet, and she wanted to head down to the racetrack and join in on the parties that were going on down here in the campground around the track. For every race, all of this area down here is just a sea of RVs and tents, people camping out and just having a good time. The RVs start rolling in several weeks before the race. As far as like parties go on race weekend, this is where you want to be. It's a big ordeal as they try to get all these campers and RVs and stuff in here. Everything is organized, and it usually, you know, when one race ends, they start planning for the next one. That's how chaotic it is. Like you can see the signs from the race that was just here where they have each individual section blocked off. So when someone rents RV space out here, they are designated to certain areas, and that way, because not only do they have to squeeze all these RVs and tents and all this other stuff into the campground areas, but they also have people who just drive in who have to park, and their media, news media trucks, ESPN or whoever else comes to film these. It's just a sea of trucks, RVs, all of this stuff, anywhere you look. This is one of their giant banks on their turns, turn 3 and 4 here on this side. And you can even get a glimpse of some of the grandstands there in the distance. This is a huge racetrack, absolutely massive, and that's why it's one of the biggest tracks that NASCAR has. This and Daytona, you know, are, I don't know if I would call them the most dangerous, but they are definitely the biggest, and they have the most wrecks, and it's a lot of fun for NASCAR fans watching races here at Talladega. In the early morning hours, when Kevin and Theresa Benn decided to leave D Ford's bar, as the couple made it here to this intersection at East Aboga Road and Speedway Boulevard, their argument boiled over, and Teresa forced Kevin to stop his truck here. She got out and she started walking down the road that way, headed towards the racetrack, and then Kevin pulled off this way, headed home to go to bed like nothing ever happened. A full 15 hours go by. The Geico 500 race has already started. Teresa's friends start noticing that she isn't anywhere around, so they try calling to get a hold of her and they get no answer. So then they call Kevin, and Kevin tells them what happened and where he left her on the side of the road. And it was here that Teresa's friends immediately start freaking out, wondering why Kevin left her on the side of the road and questioning him about why he didn't tell anyone where he left her. That afternoon on October the 19th, with race car driver Brad Keselowski approaching the finish line to win that race, just down the road from the track here at the intersection, Theresa Benn's friends and family all came here to this spot where Kevin said she got out of his truck, and they walked up and down the road here searching for her. After a short amount of time, they didn't see any signs of her, and they called the local police department to report her missing. Undoubtedly because of the race, local law enforcement was stretched thin, but they did manage to dispatch a couple of officers who still came out and helped search for Teresa. After a while of searching, when they had no sign of her, officers go out to Kevin and Teresa's home to talk to Kevin. Kevin Dulaney basically gave the version of events that I just laid out for you, with them leaving the bar and getting into the argument, and Teresa having Kevin stop, and she got out of the truck and walks away, and he goes home. No one at the racetrack reported seeing Teresa, so law enforcement quickly learned that she never made it to the racetrack that night. As the days pass, Teresa's disappearance gets reported on the news with a description of Teresa and what she was wearing, and search teams come in from out of state to start looking for Teresa, when out of nowhere, this gas station right here in Oxford, Alabama comes forward showing video of Kevin and Teresa stopping for gas. The thing about the gas station is this was the last time Theresa Benn was seen alive, right on their surveillance video. Another 15 minutes after this, they would have been at the intersection where Teresa supposedly got out of the truck. In the early days of the investigation, Kevin Dulaney cooperated fully with law enforcement, but for some reason after those first few days, he just shut down completely. He told the police that he would not talk to them anymore, and he told the media that his lawyers told him not to speak to anyone about it. And then, as search teams come in from Texas to search for Teresa, Teresa's friends and family all joined in with the search. Complete strangers joined in with the search, but Kevin never showed up to help search for her, and he claimed that his lawyers told him not to. Days and weeks passed with no sign of Teresa, and tons of people out searching for her. This area here, it was like an old building that was here, I know was the subject of a lot of the search investigation. It's right across the street from the racetrack, and just a little bit down the road from where she was last seen, and they searched out here in this area quite a bit looking for her, all in here. 1 month and 2 days after that race day here in Talladega, at around midday, search crews who were focusing on this area of Talladega. This is the Jackson Shoals area of Chocologo Creek, and search crews who were here searching around the area, they stumbled across the body of Theresa Benn floating right here down the creek. It had gotten stopped from the current, and it had gotten hung up on some branches that were hanging out over the water here. So rescue teams immediately come in and they go to work to recover the body from the water. And it's clear, like I said to everyone, that this was Theresa Benn based off of her clothing. It was the same clothes on the body that Theresa Benn had wore the night she went missing. And this area here where Theresa's body was found, this is actually right near the intersection where Kevin said Teresa got out of the truck and walked off. That intersection is just right on the other side of the wood line over here. So it's unclear if her body was placed in the water right here somewhere, or if she was actually placed in the water somewhere else and just floated to this spot. But it's pretty coincidental that it's right here near where she went missing, where he says she went missing. The intersection is right here. The racetrack is right down the road there. And the area where they found Teresa is just right back here. And she was found in the creek right back down in here. In fact, law enforcement set up like their command area right here on the road here. Finding Teresa's body, it was a crushing blow to her family. They knew that something bad had happened to her, but they were still holding out hope that she would be found alive. Teresa's remains were immediately pulled out of the water and taken to the crime lab for an autopsy, and it was determined that Teresa's throat had been cut with a knife. So investigators got search warrants, and they drove out to Kevin and Teresa's home and started looking for evidence. Now, although police emptied their entire home of any knife that they could find and several other items that they wanted to test and to put into evidence, they never found anything that showed Kevin killed Teresa. From this point of the story on, although investigators never gave up, they really got nowhere else. They interrogated Kevin Dulaney numerous amounts of times and he never confessed. They talked to hundreds of other people and they investigated thousands of tips along the way. And none of them ever led to the smoking gun that brought Theresa Benn justice. Today, as we stand here in 2025, 21 races have taken place at Talladega Superspeedway since Teresa's murder. We've gone through the whole COVID mess, and the 10-year and 7-month-long homicide investigation hasn't moved any further than this point. No one has ever been arrested or charged with her death or anything related to it, and there's only ever been one suspect in this entire time, Kevin Dulaney. To this day, Kevin insists that he did not kill Teresa and that she must have gotten out of his truck, started walking, and either fallen into the creek or something along those lines, and along the way something cut her neck. It's far-fetched. Now, because Teresa's investigation has stalled and gone cold, Teresa's family has had to live here in this community for all these years. Everyone has their suspicions as to who they think killed Teresa, and they just have to sit and watch as this person that they believe did this to their loved one just walks around free. But law enforcement just doesn't have enough evidence to file charges and make an arrest on the case. All of the investigators that have worked on Teresa's case have had to move on to other cases since hers went cold, but they still haven't given up hope that maybe one day someone will come forward with that one piece of information that will lead them to a murder weapon or that ties someone to Teresa's death, and they still hold out hope that they will be able to give Teresa's family closure and get justice for Theresa Benn. If you have any information that could help authorities involving the murder of Theresa Benn, please contact the Lincoln, Alabama Police Department. That is going to do it for here in Talladega, Alabama at the Talladega Superspeedway and the murder of Theresa Benn. Hopefully one day we can get some answers. Someone will get charged for her murder and she can finally get some justice. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Much love to you all.